everyone, we are live. Hey everyone, we are live. Welcome to this first live stream about Python programming fundamentals. I'm so excited to be here with you guys and talking about Python, my favorite programming language. Please write in the chat where are you from and what would you like to learn. Let me tell you a few words about me. My name is Andrei, and I'm an online instructor on Udemy and ZTM. I teach programming courses on Python and AI, network automation, blockchain, Linux, and security. You'll find the link to my Udemy profile with all my courses in the comments below. In fact, in the description of this video. Okay, enough about me. Let's get back to Python. In the past year, I've been focusing on and creating courses on generative AI and LLMs. I truly believe these technologies will significantly change our society and economy in the near future. Many of my students want to learn how to integrate Gen AI into their applications and adopt these groundbreaking technologies. To achieve that, they need to use services offered by AI providers like OpenAI, Google, or Anthropic. And all these LLM providers offer a Python API. So Python is a prerequisite to integrate AI into your applications. Let's see who's online. Very nice. Hello, everyone, again. Um, just a few settings on my part. Good. Uh, these live sessions will teach you the fundamentals of Python so that you can start with these new LLMs. I uh, I won't go too deep into Python because you can enroll in my complete Python bootcamp on Udemy. I'll teach you what you really need to know uh, to get started. We'll talk about basic concepts like variables, data structures, files, functions, and more. Okay, enough talk. Let's get started with Python. So, we'll start from the beginning. First of all, let me show you where you should write your Python code. If you're a complete beginner, the first thing you should do is to install Python. Just go to python.org uh, and download the latest version of Python for your operating system. I use Linux and Python is already installed. But if you use Windows, you'll need to install it. After you install the latest version of Python, you have to decide what IDE you want to use. IDE is short for Integrated Development Environment, and is in fact an editor for writing and running Python code. There are two types of IDEs: local IDEs, and you have to install them locally on your computer, and cloud-based IDEs. You don't have to install anything. The most popular IDEs for Python, local IDEs, are PyCharm, and this is what I use in my complete Python bootcamp, and VS Code. Let me show you how to install PyCharm. We won't install it now because it's really simple, but I will tell you a few words about it. So just go to jetbrains.com/PyCharm and download the community edition. Pay attention, there are two versions: PyCharm Professional and PyCharm Community Edition. You don't need to install PyCharm Professional. The Community Edition is enough. So download it for your operating system and follow the instructions. The installation is very simple. You just click next a few times and that's it. Then you can also try VS Code. VS Code is probably the most popular IDE for any programming language. Java, JavaScript, Golang, C Sharp, Python. You can use it for any programming language. It's a Microsoft product, and it's very good. I really like it. You install it. You can install it for free by visiting code.visualstudio.com, downloading the installation kit, and follow the instructions. There's nothing special here. In a few tens of seconds, or at most 1 minute, everything will be set up. Good. Uh, so the preferred IDE will be probably PyCharm or VS Code. Another approach is to use a web-based IDE. Uh, Probably you've heard about Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook, this is Jupyter Notebook, is a web-based IDE. In such a notebook, you write both Python code and add other elements like images, text, charts, and so on. It's very used for data science, AI, machine learning, LLMs, generative AI applications. You can install Jupyter Notebook locally, or you can use a cloud version, a version of Jupyter AI that runs in the cloud. And the most popular version is Google Colab. Google Colab is free to use, runs on the Google servers, and it's in fact a Jupyter Notebook cloud-based environment. I can tell you that everybody or almost everybody uses it. You can give it a try. Another advantage is that you don't need to install anything locally. So if you don't have the necessary permissions, or you don't want to install anything on your machine, you can use it. This is what I'll use throughout this session. By the way, you can follow along with me, or you can just watch the video and practice after that. Good. Okay. Hello, Monica. Hello, Andrew. Hello from Egypt. You want to learn Python, but don't have any experience or knowledge about programming languages. Yeah, okay. I will start it from scratch. Just try to follow along, or you can watch this video and try to practice after that. By the way, the most important thing is that you can learn programming only by writing code. There's no other way to learn coding except writing code. Good. Before starting, I want to tell you that I will try to correlate the concepts I'll teach you with examples in a real application. Learning only theoretical concepts without connecting them to something real is not the best approach. So this app you see here, I'm zooming it a little bit, uses the Claude 3 LLM API, which is a ChatGPT competitor, and it's part of my Gemini and Claude 3 API with Python. And will correlate the concepts I'll teach you with the code in this small application. Let's get started and talk about the first fundamental concept of any programming language. Of course, it's the variable. So we are going to talk about variables. What you need to know is that in Python, you declare a variable like this. The name of the variable, for example, name, equals, and the value. Andrei. Python is a dynamically typed programming language, which means that you don't need to specify the type when you declare a variable. Okay? By the way, I think I have already told you that I write the code in Google Colab. If you want to follow along with me, you can create such a notebook by going to research. One second. By going to colab.research.google.com. Okay? Just go to colab.research.google.com and create a new notebook. Click on this button. Okay, and in these cells, I can add many cells. We write the code. Okay, so colab.research.google.com. Let's get back here. Once again, you declare a variable by specifying its name, equals, and its value, and that's it. One recommendation is to add a white space before and after the equal sign. In Python, the code should be readable. And in order to readable, the code should follow the programming principle described in a document called pip8. Pip8 is an official document created by the Python Foundation, which describes how to write idiomatic, readable, and maintainable code. You can read it. Just search for pip8 on Google, and you'll find this document, Style Guide for Python Code. Good. Okay. Another thing you should know about declaring variable is that in Python, it is recommended to use the snake case notation. Snake case means using entire words separated by underscores for variable names. For example, max value equals 100. This is the snake case notation for variable names, and it's the recommended way. In other programming languages, if you are coming from Java, JavaScript, C Sharp, C++, you'll see there the camel case notation, like this. Max value equals 500. This is camel case. We don't use the camel case notation in Python. Good. It's not a problem to use long names. It's idiomatic in Python. And when something is idiomatic, it is said that is Pythonic. Yeah, Pythonic. It's done in the Python way. This is what Pythonic means. Good. As you can see, I didn't specify the type of these variables. This is a string. This is an int. This, for example, pi equals 3.14. The pi constant is a float. The value stored in the variables have a type, but it is not declared when you create the variable. The type is dynamically allocated. So I'm adding a new code cell and running the code in this cell. To run the code in a cell, click on this small triangle here, or click Shift and Enter. So Shift plus Enter, run the code in the cell. Shift plus Enter. Okay, and in another cell or in the same cell, I do type of pi. Type is a built-in function that returns the type stored in a variable. So pi is of type float. And the type of name is of type str or string. So variables, values stored in variables have types, but is dynamically allocated, is not specified at declaration time. This is important. Good. Okay, so in a nutshell, you should know about variables, that you declare a variable using name equals value. You should use the snake case notation. You don't specify their type, and you don't use language keywords or special characters. For example, it is not allowed to do something like this. 4 equals, I don't know, 10. This is an error. This is a syntax error because 4 is a language keyword and cannot be used as a variable name. Syntax error, invalid syntax. Yeah, it's not allowed. It is permitted to use something like this, but it's not recommended. Don't use numbers, special characters in variable names. Use entire words separated by underscores. For you, this is good. Okay? This is all you have to know about variables. Also, in Python, there aren't constants. There isn't a special language keyword to declare a constant. If you want to declare a constant, I don't know, let's say boiling temperature, 100 degrees, yeah, Celsius. You declare a constant like any other variable. There isn't something special. In many other programming languages, in Java, in C++, there's a language keyword like const or constant. There isn't something like this in Python. Or pi equals 3.5. It's a constant, but it's declared like a variable. What can I tell you from my experience is that many programmers use uh, uppercase letters for variable names. So this is a constant. I'll use uppercase letters. Max value, maybe this is a constant 2 equals, I don't know, 500. By the way, Python, like Linux, is case sensitive. So small case letters are different than uppercase letters. If I declare a variable a equals 5 and capital A equals 10, here I have two variables, two different variables. By the way, I can display the value of a variable by calling the print built-in function. A, comma, capital A. I am displaying both variables. Let's see what will happen. Something is not working well. Maybe the Colab environment has a small problem. By the way, I can interrupt the execution of the notebook at any moment and restart the session. So if there is any problem, you can restart the environment. This is a virtual machine in the Google Cloud where this notebook is executed, and maybe there is an issue. And don't forget to save the notebook by clicking the save in the menu or Control S. I'm restarting the session by the way because it's running continuously. Okay, now it's working. So it printed the value of uh, A, small case A, and uppercase A, 5 and 10. Different variables. They are different variables. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about built-in types. So Python, built-in types. By the way, comments start with a hash symbol and extend to the end of the physical line. So this is a comment, Python built-in types. This is another comment, and so on. Comments are code annotations. They explain what the code does. Good. What are I'm telling you all the Python built-in types. So we have int variables or int values, integers, for example, a equals 10. This is an int. We have floats, floating point numbers, b equals 3.5. And we can have strings. For example, C, if I used this notation, I learn Python. This is a string. Strings are defined using single quotes or double quotes. There's no difference between single and double quotes when defining a string in Python. So you can do C equals I learn Python, or you can use double quotes in the same way. There's no difference. I learn programming. What is important here is to remain consistent. If you use single quotes, use only single quotes in the same application. Don't mix single quotes with double quotes. It's not recommended. Good. So up until now, we talked about defining variables and variable types, int, float, and string. Let's take a look at this small application and see how variables, comments, and types are used. For example, this command here is installing a library, the Anthropic library, which introduces the Claude 3 API to Python. Okay? And above the command, you can see a comment installing the Anthropic library. The comment explains the users what the code does. Here, I added a comment with a URL so that you can change the name of the model by going to this URL and copy pasting the name. Yeah, there are comments everywhere. Now about variables. Why do we need variables? It's not recommended to use hard-coded values. In this example, I defined a variable called model name equals Claude 3 Sonnet. This is the name of the LLM, of the model. If I want to use another model, let's say Claude 3 Haiku or Claude 3 Opus, yeah, I just change the variable and the entire application will use that model. Okay? This is a variable that defines what the user is asking. I'm asking the LLM, write a poem about the moon. And if I run the code, it will write a poem about the moon. If I want to change the question, I'm just changing the variable. I'm not touching the code. For example, explain, I don't know, quantum mechanics in 2 sentences. It's just an example. I've changed the variable and I'm running the code. Okay, and it explained the output is explaining quantum mechanics in 2 sentences. Okay, this is a variable that defines how many tokens are allowed in the response. 1024. Later in the code, I use these variables. Model equals model name. So the model used will be the one defined in the variable. Max tokens equals tokens. Okay? Don't focus on the entire code. Focus only on what I tell you. At this moment, variables. So don't think about create, I don't know, square brackets, curly braces, and so on. It's not of any importance at this moment. Just think of variables. Good. Let's get back here to Python. So we have integers, floats, and strings. There are also compound data types. Sorry, my phone was ringing. Compound data types. And we have lists, tuples. I'll write the code that defines these data types in a second. At this moment, I'm writing them down. So lists, tuples, dictionaries, and sets. And that's it. These are all Python built-in types. Okay. What is a list? A list is a sequence or a collection of elements. If you want to hold more than one value in a variable, you'll use a list. For example, A holds one value, 10. B holds one value, 3.5. If you want to hold more than one value, you use lists. For example, names equals, and to create an empty list, you can call the list constructor or the list function like this. Names equals list, and a pair of parentheses creates an empty list. Another way to create an empty list is using a pair of square brackets. Square brackets means list. This is very important. When you see a pair of square brackets, you see a list. These are empty lists. Now to create a list that contains some elements, you'll use the name of the list, names, and the elements in square brackets separated by commas. For example, Andrei, Mary, and I don't know, Anne. Okay? This list contains 3 elements, Andrei, Mary, and Anne. To print out a list, you call the built-in print function and the name of the variable. I'm running the code. This is the list. Lists can hold elements of any type. I can add an int, a float, or another list. Another list means a pair of square brackets. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 elements. It contains strings, an int, a float, and another list. Okay, if you want to see how many elements are in a list, or in a tuple, or in a dictionary, or in a set, in general, in any compound data type, you can call the len built-in function, len of names. There are 6 elements in the list. Or len of, let's do something different. Print, and I'm writing number of elements in um, in let's use here instead of d, let's say my str from my string, in my str. Okay, colon. Now pay attention. I want to insert the value returned by the len function. So I will call len of my str, and the value returned I want to be inserted here. To do that, I'll use something called an f string. This is a special type of strings, f string. An f string is a special string. It's defined using f before the opening single or double quote. So f means f string, and inside the string, I can call a function or use any expression in curly braces like this. So here in curly braces, I can call len of my str. What will this line of code do? It will print out number of elements in my str, and here the value returned by the function inside the curly braces, len of my str. So in fact, it will print out the number of elements in this string. I learned programming. I don't know how many elements there are, probably more than 10. I'm running the code. Okay, number of elements in my str, 19. This is very important. We'll find f strings everywhere. For example, let's take a look at this code that uses Anthropic's Claude 3. I want to show you an f string. Okay, take a look here. This piece of code. I will explain it to you. So here, I'm downloading. Don't focus on the entire code. Focus on the f string only. So I am downloading an image from this URL using a library called HTTPX. This line of code defines a variable, which is an URL. Line 2. Line 3 downloads the image using HTTP. In fact, it's making an HTTP request. And then I am testing the HTTP status code. If the status code is 200, which means success, I'm printing out image fetched successfully and saving the image raw data in a variable. Else, if the status code was not 200, which means it was a failure, I'm printing this message. And the message is failed to fetch image, status code colon, and here in curly braces, the actual value of the status code. This is an f string because I need to insert the actual value here. The response.status code. Okay? This is an example of such an f string. Good. Let's move on. So we talked about lists. We use square brackets. And now we'll move on to tuples. To create a tuple, let's say, I don't know, cities equals, I'll use parentheses. So square brackets means list, parentheses means tuples. Tuple. Berlin, London, and Madrid. This is a tuple. What is the difference between a list and a tuple? Lists are mutable. I'm writing here, mutable data type. And the tuples are unmutable. Mutable means that the variable can be changed, so we can change a list. Unmutable means that the variable cannot be changed. We cannot change a tuple. If we want to change a tuple, we have to create a new one. But I cannot replace here Berlin with, I don't know, Paris. It's not permitted. This is a tuple. Tuples are sometimes more efficient. They consume less memory. If you need to save something that doesn't change, you can use a tuple. There are many elements that don't change. For example, let's suppose you have a GPS coordinate. A GPS coordinate will never change. GPS coordinate. It's a tuple. If you change it, in fact, you'll have another point. Or you have a list with all the capitals in Europe. You will never change that list. Hopefully. Okay. Yeah, so we declare it as a tuple, not as a list. If we know that the variable will be changed, we can declare it as a list. This is the main difference between lists and tuples. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about dictionaries. You declare a dictionary, for example, friend equals, using a pair of curly braces. Sorry, I mistyped the name of the variable. So friend equals curly braces. This is a dictionary. Now inside the dictionary, I'll use key value pairs. Key value pairs. For example, name, colon, then. I have inserted one element in the dictionary. One key value pair. Name is the key, then the corresponding value. Location, colon. Let's say we use a code for the location because I want to use also integers, floats, not only strings. Or 10 colon 400. It doesn't matter. It means something, this 10. Okay, so this dictionary has 3 elements: the first pair, the second pair, and the last pair. If I call the len function, I'll get 3, len of francs. Dictionaries are used everywhere. Friend is the name. Okay. Okay, take a look here. It says 3. Okay. This is how you create a dictionary using curly braces and key value pairs. Key, colon, value, and the pairs are separated by commas. Let's talk about sets. A set is collection of elements, of unique elements. So a set is not allowed to have duplicates. If you know your collection of elements doesn't contain duplicates, you create a set. For example, if you want a list of emails, you'll also use curly braces and the values. For example, n at google.com or gmail.com. Your email at I don't know, company.com. Okay, sets can contain other types as well. For example, you can have an int here, a float, or a string, ABC. But duplicates are not allowed. For example, I'm using an F string because we've just learned about them. Emails, colon, and in curly braces, emails. It will print out emails, colon, and the actual value of the variable. I'm running the code. Okay, now I'm adding another element, and that element will be 10. 10 appears 2 times. It was saved only once. It's not allowed to have duplicates in a set. Even though 10 appears 2 times, it was added only once. There are many collections of real world elements that don't allow duplicates. For example, email addresses, telephone phone numbers, personal ID numbers. I don't know, DNS domains. All these collection, all these collections of elements don't allow duplicates, and you can save them as a set. Okay. I think that's it. This is the most important. These are the most important data types: lists, tuples, dictionaries, and sets. In a nutshell, you define a list using square brackets, and lists are mutable. You define a tuple using parentheses. Tuples are unmutable or immutable. You cannot change them. Immutable. And dictionaries are defined using curly braces, the same as sex, just that dictionaries contain key value pairs and the sex contain unique elements. Good. Let's see how to extract the elements in a collection. Let's take a look. Let's print again, or let's define again this list. I want to see it in this cell. Okay. The elements in a list have a position or an index, and the position or the index always starts, the position starts from 0. So this is position 0, position 1, position 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, keep this in mind. It's always starting from 0. So if I want to extract the element Mary, I will use names, a pair of square brackets, and the index. Mary is at index 1. Okay? If I want to extract 10, I can do n equals names of, and now the index 0, 1, 2, and 3. I'm executing the code, and you can see 10. Very well. This is how you extract the elements in a list. One more thing. If you want to go from right to left, you can use something like this. Print names of -1. -1 means the last element in the list. -1 means this list. -2, of course, is 3.5. And so on. So you can also use negative indexes if you want to go from right to left. Good. And if you want to change the elements of a list, you can do something like this. Names of 0. I'm changing the element at index 0 equals, let's say, Michael. And print names. you can see that Michael is the first element of the list. It's at index 0. Once again, a list is mutable, but a tuple is immutable. If you want to change, or if you try to change a tuple, you'll get an error. I'm copy pasting this line of code here, and I'm trying to change the first element of the tuple. Cities of 0 equals Paris. This is not allowed in Python. This is a tuple because I used parentheses, and tuples are immutable. Type error, tuple object does not support item assignment. This is an assignment. I'm commenting out this line so that there is no error. Good. Let's take a look at this application that uses the Claude 3 API. You'll see many lists, dictionaries, even tuples. For example, take a look at this variable or object. By the way, a variable is in fact an object. If I say tokens equals 1024, I can say that tokens is a variable, but I can also say that tokens is an object of type int or an object of the int class. So you can say object or variable. Okay, tokens is an object. Prompt is an object of the str class. Or client is an object of the Anthropic class. Good. So messages is an object of type list. Why list? Because I used square brackets. Square brackets means list. It's written on multiple lines. There isn't an issue if you want to write a list or a dictionary on multiple lines. It is allowed in Python. It's done for a better readability. So here I can write this tuple like this. Sometimes, if the list or the tuple contains too many elements and their names is long, you write them on multiple lines for a better readability. This isn't an error. Okay, no error. Good. So here, messages is of type list. And now the list has one element, a dict or a dictionary. This is a dictionary because it uses curly braces. And in the dictionary, there are two elements. One key value pair and the second key value pair. User colon role user role colon user. Role is the key, user the value, and content colon prompt. Content is the key, prompt is the value, and prompt is a variable that was previously defined here. Explain quantum mechanics in 2 sentences. Okay, so this is a list with an element of type dictionary. I'm copy pasting this code here. I'm adding a few code cells. And now, okay, prompt is not defined. I'm replacing prompt with something random. I don't know. Something random. Okay? Good. Now one test, or you can do it as homework. How can you extract the value of the content key? This is also very important. We always see something like this. Okay? So we want to extract this string, something random. This string is the value of the content key. So value equals, I'm creating a variable for it, and messages is a list. the first element in the list is the dictionary. So if I write messages of 0, I will get the dictionary. Below, I'm writing print and value. It will print the dictionary, the element of the list. I continue. Another pair of curly braces of square brackets and the key content. What does it mean? It means that I want the value of the content key of the first element of the list. Now it will print out something random, the value I wanted. Yeah, because if you have a dictionary like this, D1 equals curly braces 10 colon, I'm giving you a very simple example. 20, comma, I don't know, 30 colon 100. If you want to get the value 100, you do D1 of and the key, the corresponding key of the value 100. So D1 of 30 means get or return the value of the key 30, which is 100. This is what I did here, okay? Because here in this application, I print out the response of the LLM by accessing the content attribute of the response object. Content is a list. Then I go in the list and take the element at index 0. And in that element, I'm going deeper and take the text attribute. And it's the LLM response. You'll get used to this. You need some experience, some practice. It's not complicated at all. Good. Let's move on. We still have some things to do. Let's talk about the last important concept of this session, called methods. We will talk about methods. So in Python, there are two types of functions, if I can say this. Functions, built-in functions, and methods. Built-in functions are print, len. There are not so many. There are around 20, 30 built-in functions. You can call them anywhere in your code. And these functions return something. But besides functions, we also have methods. The methods are always connected to an object. For example, I'm defining a new string, Python, and now I'm writing s1 dot and the method name. Let's say upper. Let me explain this code to you. This is a comment. I'm defining a variable called s1 with the value Python. It's a string because it is written in single quotes. And here I'm calling the upper method. You call a method using the dot notation, the name of the variable or the object, dot, and the name of the variable, of the method. I'm calling upper on the variable called s1. What does this method do? It returns an uppercase version of the string. But this is not important at this moment. At this moment, it's important to understand that there are methods. They are called connected to an object, and you use the dot notation to call them. Okay? And there are methods for strings, for lists, dictionaries, and so on. in this application, you'll see many methods. For example, create. It's written on multiple lines, but it's a method. The name create, an opening parenthesis, and the closing parenthesis. It's a method of this object. The object returned by client.messages. This is a built-in function, open. It's not a method because it's not connected to an object. To be a method, needs an object and a dot and the method. This is a method, image file dot read. The method read is called on this object. Open is a standalone function or a built-in function. This is also a method. Decode B64 encode is a method as well, and so on. Okay, if you want to see all the methods of an object, you write dir and a variable of that type. For example, dir of s1 will return all the methods for strings, all string methods. S1 is an object of type string, and dir of S1 will return all string methods. Capitalize, center, count, encode, find, format, index, and so on. There are many. Now, if you want to see what such a method does, you call the help built-in function. For example, let's take a random one. Count. You want to see the built-in help for the count method. You do help of s1.count. Pay attention here. You don't call the method. You call a method or a function by specifying or by writing a pair of parentheses like this. I don't write a pair of parentheses, which means I'm not calling the method. I'm just displaying its help. Count. Return the number of non-overlapping occurrences of substring sub in string. So in fact, it returns how many times a substring appears in a string. We won't go deeper into each method because they are presented in my complete Python bootcamp. But I will tell you a few words about this one because we talked about and we are talking about it. Let's declare a string. I'm copy pasting a string from here because I also because I also want to show you how to declare a string on multiple lines. If you want to declare a string on multiple lines, you use triple quotes. Answer equals 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is a multi-line string. Okay? You can use single or double quotes. I'm running the code. Good. And now I want to count how many times the substring. Let's see something here. Okay, let's see the tag appears in the string. Print an f string literal, and I'm writing the appears a pair of curly braces in the string answer. And here inside the curly braces, I'll call the count method. Answer.count of and the substring. By the way, it's not allowed to use single quotes inside single quotes. That's why I'm using double quotes here. If I use a single quote, I'll get an error because it considers that the string is ending here. Okay? And I'm running it. The appears 4 times in the string answer. Yeah? The count method returns how many times a substring appears in a string. Okay. As homework, you can take a look at each method. Each method you see in the output of dir of S1. Let me show you a few methods here. For example, some string methods. Here, I'm calling the strip method on a string. And on the result, I'm calling the remove prefix method. By the way, it's not difficult, something like this. You see here many methods called in a row. It's not difficult because you can have something like this. Let's take a look at this piece of code. I have a string s1 Python, and I do s1.upper. This returns an uppercase version of the string. On the result, I'm calling the capitalize method. So this means that on the result, on the return value of the upper method, capitalize is called. And I got a capitalized version of the string. Then I'm calling count, and I'm counting how many times O appears in the string. And it returns 1. I've called 3 methods on the same line. They are called from left to right. First, the upper method is called, then on the result, capitalize, and on the return value of capitalize, called count is called. This is what happens here. Okay. I think we'll come to an end. Okay, there are some comments. What ID is this? Patricia Grace is asking. Hello, Patricia. Okay, this is Google Colab. Google Colab is a Jupyter notebook environment that can be used for free and is hosted in the on the Google servers. So if you have a Google account, you just log into your account and use it. This is the free version, but has lots of features. You can also switch to a paid plan, and you'll have many features. One of the most important feature being a GPU. Yeah, the GPU is used if you want to run AI models locally. Yeah, AI models. There are open source AI models, LLMs like Llama 3, and many others require a lot of resources. You cannot run such models using a normal CPU, no matter what CPU you have. And for that, you need a GPU. This is what NVIDIA does, and that's why NVIDIA stocks skyrocketed. Yeah, good. Let's see what other questions I have. Okay, Andy already responded. Thank you, Andy. Okay, in summary, in a nutshell, Today we discussed IDEs. IDEs are editors where you write and run your Python code. And there are local IDEs, you install them locally. PyCharm and VS Code are the most popular ones. And the web-based IDEs, Jupyter Notebook, this is Jupyter Notebook, and Google Colab hosted in the Google Cloud. Normally, a Python programmer uses more than one IDE. For example, it depends on the project. For data science, machine learning, AI projects, many programmers use a Jupyter Notebook environment because you can add, take a look here at this notebook. I can add images, I don't know, multimedia elements, movies, Python code. I can format the text using the Markdown format, which is like an HTML standard, and so on. It's easier to use such an ID. But if you have a network automation script or you create an application, I don't know, for something for engineering, image processing, you can use a locally installed ID like PyCharm or VS Code. Okay, so we talked about IDs, and then we talked about some fundamental concepts of Python. Variables, in a nutshell, you declare a variable using name equals value. You use the snake case notation. There isn't a special keyword for declaring a constant. Okay, variables have types allocated at runtime. It means dynamically allocated. You don't specify the type when you define the variable, and you see the type by calling the type built-in function. You are not allowed to use keywords, numbers, symbols in a variable. Then we talked about comments. You use a hash symbol to create a comment. By the way, here I have something important to tell you. If you want to comment more than one line, you comment each line. Each line. This is a little bit difficult. If you want to comment out 100 lines, you cannot comment like this, the code. You need a lot of time. What you can do, you select the code. I have selected, I don't know, 10 lines of code. And now I'm pressing Control and /. Control /, comments out an entire block of code. The block of code that is selected. I press, and if you press it again, it deselect or unselect that block of code. This is this works in any ID. Control and /. Okay, and then we talked about Python built-in types. These are almost all Python built-in types. Int and floats for numbers, strings declared using single or double quotes. You can use either single quotes or double quotes, but stay consistent. Don't mix them in the same application. And then we have compound data types, lists, tuples, dictionaries, and sets. And that's it. Okay, there are also frozen sets, which are a special type of set. We don't talk about them at this moment. They are not so used. Okay, then we talked about how to extract an element of a list, how to change an element of a list. I told you that lists are mutable, can be changed. Tuples are immutable, cannot be changed. I showed you some examples from this application, which uses Claude 3 LLM and Python. And finally, we discussed methods. Methods are special functions that are always connected to an object. An object is a variable, or a variable is an object. We can say variable equals object. If I say I create a variable, uh, it's the same with I create an object. Okay. If you want to see all the methods of an object, you call the dir built-in function. And if you want to see the help of an object, you call the help built-in function and the method as an argument. But you don't call the method, you just specify it like this, s1 dot count. You can also use a literal, a string literal like this, ABC. By the way, ABC is called a string literal. So a value, a string value like this is a string literal. It's not a variable, it's the value, a string literal. And this, 1, 2, 3, what is this? This is a list literal. It's an actual value of a list called a list literal, and so on. Good. I also showed you how to create a multi-line string. You use triple single or double quotes. And we also talked about f strings. F strings allow us to insert values in a string. Allow us to format a string. Here will be inserted the value returned by the count method. Okay. Good. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer them. In the next session, we'll go deeper into flow control and other data structures. We'll talk about for loops, about if, the if statement. We'll talk about while, and more. I will announce the date and time for the next session on my Discord server. If you haven't joined my Discord server yet, you can find the invite link in the description of this video. Okay? Good. Thank you all. Bye bye.